Mexico versus South Africa, opening match preview. This is Alex. Alex loves football. Alex has watched every World Cup since he was 7 years old. Alex has strong opinions about everything: formations, referees, the offside rule, which stadium has the best atmosphere in the world. And right now, Alex is very excited because the 2026 FIFA World Cup kicks off in less than 24 hours. And the opening match, Match 1, the very first kick of the biggest football tournament on the planet, is not just any game. It's Mexico versus South Africa. So let's sit down with Alex and break this one apart. The stadium, the conditions, the players, the history, who's got the edge, and who's walking into a trap they don't fully understand yet. Let's get into it. The stage. First, let's talk about where this game is being played, because the venue isn't just a backdrop. It's one of the biggest advantages one team has over the other. Mexico versus South Africa kicks off on June 11, 2026 at Estadio Azteca in Mexico City, officially renamed Estadio Banorte for sponsorship purposes. But nobody calls it that. It's still the Azteca. It always will be. This stadium is a monster. Capacity for the 2026 World Cup sits at approximately 83,000 spectators, one of the largest venues in the entire tournament. It opened in 1966. It has hosted 2 World Cup finals. It is the only stadium in history where both Pelé and Diego Maradona won the World Cup. The hand of God goal, the goal of the century, they happened here. And on June 11th, 2026, 83,000 people, almost all of them Mexican, will be screaming from those stands from the first minute. But the Azteca doesn't just intimidate with noise. It intimidates with physics. Mexico City sits at 2,200 meters, about 7,200 feet above sea level. That is not a minor detail. That is one of the most extreme playing conditions in world football. At that altitude, the air is thinner, oxygen delivery to the muscles is reduced, and players who haven't acclimatized feel the difference almost immediately. Higher heart rates, faster fatigue, shorter sprints. The lungs work harder and deliver less. Teams that prepare for altitude, that spend weeks training at height before arriving, hold a genuine edge. Teams that don't feel it in the first 15 minutes and fight it for the remaining 75. As for the weather on June 11, expect highs of around 25 to 26 degrees Celsius, humidity sitting at roughly 64%. June falls in Mexico City's rainy season with afternoon thunderstorms. The Azteca is an open-air stadium, so if the rain hits, it hits everyone. For Mexico, this is home. They live here. They train here. Their lungs have been breathing this air their entire lives. For South Africa, this is a problem we need to talk about. The altitude problem. South Africa plays its domestic football primarily at sea level and at moderate elevation. Johannesburg sits at about 1,700 meters. Not nothing but significantly lower than Mexico City. Most of their premier soccer league clubs operate well below Azteca altitude. What this means practically is that Bafana Bafana will arrive in Mexico City needing to acclimatize, and acclimatization at this level takes time. The standard recommendation for high-altitude adaptation is a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks before a major competition. Whether South Africa's coaching staff has built that into their preparation is a key question heading into this match. Hugo Broos, South Africa's Belgian coach, is experienced and meticulous. But the altitude factor at the Azteca is not something any amount of tactical preparation fully compensates for. You can game plan for a 4-3-3. You cannot game plan your red blood cells. If South Africa arrives without adequate altitude preparation, expect them to visibly tire in the second half. Energy levels that feel normal at sea level simply don't translate at 2,200 meters. That could be the difference between a competitive result and a late collapse. Mexico, the home team. Let's talk about El Tri, because Mexico comes into this tournament carrying both enormous pressure and real reasons for optimism. The pressure. Mexico failed to get out of the group stage at Qatar 2022, ending a streak of 7 consecutive World Cups where they reached the round of 16. For a country co-hosting this tournament, in front of their own fans, in their own stadium, that cannot happen again. The optimism. They won the CONCACAF Nations League and the Gold Cup in 2025. They have quality throughout the squad, and they have home advantage that almost no other team at this tournament can match. Head coach Javier Aguirre has assembled a squad that balances experience with emerging talent. In goal, Guillermo Ochoa, 40 years old, appearing in his 6th World Cup. A record for Mexican football. At his age, commanding the Azteca in front of 83,000 people is not a burden. It's a homecoming. In midfield, Captain Edson Alvarez of Fenerbahce is the emotional and tactical spine of this team. When he's controlling tempo, Mexico functions. He sets the tone. Up front, 2 names to watch closely. Raúl Jiménez, 34 years old, Fulham. Experience, leadership, tactical intelligence. He finished the Premier League season in double figures for goals. He knows how to lead a line at the highest level. At a home World Cup, expect him to be motivated beyond what any number can measure. And the danger man, Julián Quiñones. The forward had a spectacular season in Saudi Arabia, finishing among the league's top scorers, ahead of Ivan Toney and Cristiano Ronaldo. Pace, physicality, and instinct for the box. If South Africa's defensive line gives him space in behind, they will pay for it. One more name, Gilberto Mora, only 17 years old, but already a starter at international level. Became the youngest player ever to start and win a continental final at the Gold Cup. His ability to create in open play, his long-range shooting, his dangerous set pieces, Mora doesn't do stages too big for him. He's never found one yet. South Africa, the underdogs with teeth. Now let's not dismiss Bafana Bafana, because this South African team is not a team that came to the World Cup just to participate. They qualified in a tough African group, beating Nigeria to get here. They have genuine quality, and they have a style of play, expressive, technically confident, high energy, that can disrupt organized defenses. Start with their captain and goalkeeper, Ronwen Williams. Calm, analytical, a penalty save specialist who holds an AFCON record that may never be broken. If this game goes tight in the final minutes, Williams in goal is exactly who you want. In attack, the player Mexico will be most worried about, Lyle Foster, playing his club football at Burnley in England. Physically powerful, direct, knows how to play against disciplined defensive lines. He's the focal point Bafana Bafana build around when they want to hurt you. Watch also for Relebohao Mofokeng from Orlando Pirates. Young, fast, unpredictable. A player who creates problems out of nothing. And Themba Zwane, nicknamed M. Shishi, one of the most experienced players in the squad, a vital presence in midfield who can control tempo and unlock defenses. The concern for South Africa isn't quality. It's the altitude, the atmosphere, and the weight of playing match 1 of the entire tournament in someone else's cathedral with 83,000 people against you from the first whistle. The history between these two teams. Here's a detail Alex will definitely bring up. These two teams have met at a World Cup before. 16 years ago at the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, Mexico and Bafana Bafana played the opening match of that tournament. The result, 1-1. South Africa have beaten Mexico before, 2-1 in a Gold Cup match in 2005. This is not a team without history against El Tri, but that was then. This is the Azteca. This is 83,000 Mexicans watching their team open a home World Cup. The context is entirely different. The verdict. Mexico are the heavy favorites here, and they should be. Home ground, altitude advantage, a squad with quality at every position, and a nation that will carry them through every second of 90 minutes. But South Africa are not here to be overwhelmed. Bruce has built a disciplined, compact team that is hard to break down. If they manage the altitude, stay organized defensively in the first 20 minutes, and let the game breathe, they have the quality to make this uncomfortable. Alex's prediction, Mexico wins, probably 2-0 or 2-1. Jiménez or Quiñones gets on the score sheet. Bafana Bafana push hard in the second half, but the altitude catches up with them late. But in football, especially at a World Cup, especially at the Azteca, nobody really knows what happens until the whistle blows. And that's exactly why we watch. Full match analysis, lineups, and post-game breakdown coming after June 11. Drop your prediction in the comments. What's your score?